Good morning. Pems. Listen to VOA, Japanese English listening material site. What is Japanese pacifism? It's difficult for foreigners to understand. I want Japan to show more clearly what Japan's defense policy is suppressing and how it will help world peace. About 20 years ago, I attended to listen to a lecture by a Japanese military representative with Korean Military Academy students in Seoul. In a talk about the Self-Defense Forces and United Nations Peacekeeping Operations (PKO), one of the students asked, "What happens if you get a typical attack?" After we received an explanation of the PKO 5 principles, we use weapons to the minimum necessary for the protection of members' lives and bodies. A Japanese military officer replied, "We will first escape." I remember that the students were embarrassed, saying, "Just a joke," but saying, "Even if you joke, the soldiers say run away." I remembered that this was the year of the Tokyo Olympics. Edited. The Olympics were postponed to July 2021, and it was a milestone in the 60th year of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty. Articles and editorials about Japan as a peace nation and Japanese pacifism appear in Japanese newspapers. To be honest, it is difficult for foreigners to understand what this relatively popular peace nation means. First of all, Japan is in fact one of the world's top 10 military expenditures in defense spending, and has many advanced weapons. Sometimes irrational self-restraint. After studying abroad in Japan and studying Japanese foreign policy in earnest, I learned that there are 3 principles for arms exports in typical pacifist policies, in addition to dealing with peacekeeping operations. This is more than a dozen years ago, but I have interviewed a former Pentagon official who is familiar with Japan. According to the 3 principles on Japan's arms export, the executive said, "The cups used in submarines are also classified as weapons for military use and cannot be exported." He was critical. It's irrational. At that time, the cup had rubber on the bottom, making it difficult for the cup to fall even if the table tilted. When I heard that, I thought it was absurd. What makes Japanese pacifism difficult for foreigners to understand is that its focus is sometimes irrationally binding on itself, making it difficult to see how the international community will be peaceful. I think there is a reason in that point. Of course, all of the examples here are somewhat extreme, and the nature of peacekeeping operations and the 3 principles of arms exports have changed significantly since then. The 3 principles on arms export became the 3 principles on defense equipment transfer in 2014. And the enactment of a security-related law for 15 years has expanded the scope of the SDF's overseas activities. I understand that pacifism is living softly. On the other hand, what is called pacifism in Japan more and more, but pacifism is still supported. According to a public opinion poll of the Asahi Shimbun in May 2018, 67% of respondents answered that they should continue to do so when asked about the pacifism of the Constitution. Such public opinion still seems to be acting as a kind of binding of Japan's defense policy. Overseas dispatch of the self-defense forces has been restrained, and 6 years have passed since the 3 principles for the transfer of defense equipment have not been realized. I visited DSEI Japan, the first defense equipment exhibition in Japan held last November in Chiba Prefecture. Photo. But Japanese companies are exhibiting disaster response equipment and drones for reconnaissance. Many are not so aggressive, and the atmosphere is different from similar exhibitions held in Korea. So, if you take a closer look, you can see that pacifism is still alive in Japan. However, it is very difficult for foreigners to understand why and what is restraining Japan's defense policy, and how does it help in international peace, for example in mitigating disarmament and regional conflicts. I want them to be shown more clearly. Author. NAOHLE, International Exchange Coordinator and Interpreter. Born in Seoul, she spends her childhood in the United States. Graduated from Korea University of Foreign Studies. Keio University Graduate School of Law, PhD. Political science major. Engaged in international exchange at university. Mother with 2 children. That's all. Thank you. Listen to VOA.